we're back with another Gimp tutorial. The project that we're going to introduce today is actually really great because it will allow you to learn a lot of different tools in Gimp and end up with a fun product. What I'm scrolling through here is some past yearbook things I had done at the intermediate school where I had the students cut out their heads in Gimp and pick a theme. As you can see, this is Star Wars. Put it on body and a background and throw in some text. And so that's the basic idea of what we're going to do today. We're going to pick a theme, cut out our heads, find some bodies to put them on, a background, and put it with some text as well. So let's jump right into it. I decided that I was going to do a Lego theme, so I searched a nice large image. And so I'd saved that already. And it's important to know where you save it to. I put mine to the desktop. Most of the time you will have to go to your folder and to your downloads typically. But I saved mine to the desktop. And so I chose to do a Lego theme. And so I started out with a Lego background. Now, most of you will have a picture of yourself, whether it was a selfie or someone else took it. We have our student pictures here at Woodland Middle School. And so I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I got to find mine here. And one of the skills here as far as removing background you'll want to know how to do. You'll be utilizing that a lot when you do things with Gimp. And so if this was a simple background, I would typically take this fuzzy select tool. I call it the magic wand because it looks like that. And when you double click, you're given the ability to change some things. So threshold is kind of the sensitivity. So if it's on a low threshold and I click, you'll notice it only picks part of the picture. And so I will go off of that. One of the things I need to do though before that, I need to go to my layers window and I need to right click and actually add an alpha channel so that if I do delete anything, it would be have a clear background. So once again, I'm going to double click so that I can change the settings. You could turn up your threshold and try to get more, but I've found with this kind of complex background, it doesn't pick it out very well. See, it picked out a little too much. So I'm going to Control Z and back that up. I found that if I go to the Select by Color tool, and then I need to change, usually this is on defaults to composite, but I found that when you go to LCH hue, it does a pretty good job of picking out the color. So I have mine at a 23 threshold. You may have to change yours depending on what your background looks like. But as you can see, it cuts out pretty well. Now it did a little bit in the eyes and on the collar, but I'll say for the sake of time, we'll just say that's good. I'd fix that later if I was trying to be perfect. But I'm going to go Control-Shift-A to deselect. Now we're not done yet because we only want our head and not our body. So I like to use this free select tool. It looks like the lasso. And so I'll select that. I'll zoom in. And as you will find, no one likes to zoom in and see all the imperfections of themselves. You see that your teeth are not quite as straight or as white and clean. You see that your skin has acne and pimples and other blemishes. But you know what? We're all human. And, you know, I love you. Your parents love you. And we need to just love ourselves. So here we go. Anyways, I've finished around the chin. And I'm going to just go around the whole body here. And I'm going to finish this up by pressing Enter. And you'll see it's glowing now. And then I will press Delete. And at this point, we have my head that I could utilize. However, it's in a JPEG form. And JPEGs don't allow transparent backgrounds. So I need to export it. And so I'm going to go Export As. And I'm going to change it to a .gif. A GIF. Some people say GIF, but I hear that the correct pronunciation is GIF. So I'll export that. And I actually was practicing earlier, so I hadn't done it. So I'm just going to replace that one. And now the next thing I needed to find is I went to the internet and searched for some Lego characters. And so I need to also edit the Lego characters. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, I wanted to put myself on a Batman body. And the nice thing is it's in a PNG, which allows transparency, and it'll be really easy. I'm just going to use the fuzzy select again, and I'm just going to cut off Batman's head because that's where I'm going to put my head eventually. And you don't need to be perfect up here because the transparent layer is just that. I press enter and delete. Once again, I need to export it. And since it's already a PNG, we will go ahead and leave it that way. All right, so we're ready to move on. Typically, I'm going to just close these out. I could just take them in, but I wanted to show you how to had your files been already edited separately. So here's my Lego background. I need to now go File, Open as a Layer. I'm going to find that Lego body. And so, let's see, Batman body. And you're going to notice right now, maybe that's the sizing I want, but I wanted to teach you a tool. So right here we have this little rectangle to large rectangle. That is my scaling tool. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It's going to be important to know that. When I click on it, you'll notice this little chain. When it's locked, it keeps the proportions, length and width, the same. So if I pull it down, it's going to also change the width. If I unlock this, I could actually smash it, and I don't like that so much. So I like to typically keep my chain locked. So I'm going to go back to the original, lock that chain, and let's just bring this down. If you grab the center of it, you could also move this at that time. So I'm going to say this looks good for now. I probably will change its place later, but I'll just go ahead and press enter. All right. So at this point, I have two layers. I have my background and my body. I need to put my head on. So I'm going to go ahead and go File, Open as Layer, very important. I'm going to find the head that I had just made. So I had found my head, and you're going to notice it is huge. And you also notice I have red eyeballs because sadly that didn't get fixed. So we'll try to fix that later. So I'm going to once again use my scaling tool to get it the proper size. And it is huge. So I'm going to zoom out by going Control and roll down. Luckily that's locked. I'm going to go like this, and I'll bring it in. Now I'll zoom back in and see how close. Sometimes we like to have kind of a larger bobblehead look, depending on what you're doing. I'm going to say that looks good and press enter. You may want to rotate it as well. And so right here next to the scaling tool is the rotation tool. So I'll click that, and when I click on my head, I can now just drag it, and we can pull it around and get it to look like what I want it to look like. All right. Now, if I think that's good, one of the things that I could do to make these one piece is I could merge down. Basically, it's taking this layer and merging it into that layer. So I want to keep these connected. So I'm going to right-click and say Merge Down. And now you'll notice there are no more 3 layers, but just 2 layers. And I can now, using my Move tool, so this is my Move tool, looks like a little northeast, west, southwest campus. I could move this around my Lego background. And now I could also, if I wanted to, rotate that whole image. And I will rotate, just because I'm going to have it kicking a villain. So I'm going to go ahead and add a villain. I think I saved it to my desktop. And let's see if I found something. I think here, this guy looks like a villain. And you know what I forgot to do? I made a mistake on purpose, or did I? I needed to go File, Open as Layer, and find that villain so that he comes in. Obviously, he is huge, or well, And so I will need to move him. So I grab my move tool. I will need to scale him. So I'll use my scale tool. And remember, you can always use the centerpiece after you scale to move them around. And you know, for the sake for the sake of time, I'll say that looks good. I could add more pieces as I did with my other yearbook pages that I had created. But to keep it simple, the last thing we want to do is add some text. So right here is our text tool. If you double click, again, double clicking on any of these tools gives you the ability to do some changes. So I got to find a font that I think will look all right. And just for the sake of time, I will just do a Comic Sans. Okay, and I'll lower that down a little bit. I'm going to start, let's see, what colors look good? I had done a Lego in the past. Oh, so I think I'm going to start white, and then I'll do some black and yellow, just to make it look like an actual Lego theme. All right, so white, black, and yellow. So I'm going to start. I got to pick white as a color. I'm just going to click here. What should I call this? I'll just call it Bat Boy, just for the sake of time. And over here, you'll notice my letters are overlapping, and that's because of this AB with the lines. That's the spacing. Typically, it's at 0, and that obviously you can make it spaced far apart, or you can get a little closer. Because I'm going to be adding some layers, I'm going to actually have the spacing be a little bit further out. So I'm going to go ahead and press Enter and go back to my layers because I need to move some things around a little bit. I'm going to grab my move, and I need to click on the right layer. So that's my evil character, and then I'm going to click on this, and that's myself because I don't want the text to be in the way. I could click on the text and also move that. And so we also, here's another tool, is have our alignment tool. So when I click on that and click on my text, you'll notice these little boxes come around. So I'm going to double click, actually, click, and I can center it. I don't want to center it up and down because it goes back over. So, but I do want to center it left and right. And so I think that looks pretty good. I'll go back to my layers. And now, remember, I wanted to add not only black but yellow. So I'm going to show you how to do this real quick if you want to try to spice yours up a little bit. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to actually add a few more layers because I'm going to add one, and then I'm going to add another. You want to make sure it's transparent. Usually it defaults to that. And what I'm going to do is bring this to the very top. Actually, I'll just pull those down. Yeah. I'm going to, sometimes you need, there. I use my up and down arrow to get it there. All right. So my white's at the top. I'm going to say, because I'm on my font, I want to say alpha to selection. And so basically what that does is it outlines what you had in that selection. So I'm going to go to this next layer where I want the black to be. And so I'm working in this layer now. And I'm going to say select, grow. So it's actually going to grow that selection. I'm going to grow it by about 10 pixels. And you see it's a little bit larger. And I'm actually going to grab my paint bucket tool, which is right here. I'm going to change it to black. And I'm going to pour that in. And you can see now if I go Control-Shift-A, I have a black around it. Now some of you might be saying, that's not thick enough, so I may have to grow it more. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to move on. So now I have this layer. I'm going to right-click and go Alpha to Selection. And I'm going to go to this third layer that's blank, and which should be my yellow coloring. I'm going to say grow that. And since I didn't grow it enough last time, Let's grow it a little bit larger this time. Let's go to 15. And this time I want yellow, so I need to pick yellow. That's not a very good yellow, but there's a brighter yellow. And I'm going to use my paint bucket tool, fill that in, and there you go. Control-Shift-A. I have a pretty good rendering of my Lego yearbook page that I had done earlier. You guys will obviously get to try more things and add more things, but lots of tools that we learned today, and hope you enjoyed that. Have fun with this project. I look forward to seeing what you turn